What's a happening? Brian Tong here, and welcome to the Apple Byte for all the good and bad inside the world of Apple. Now, the big announcements from WWDC are all here. It was just like we expected, all software and no Apple TV. It made for one of the most lackluster keynotes we've seen in a while, but as always, there's plenty of news that shakes out afterwards. Now, the most significant announcements out of the bunch to me came from iOS 9. There's an improved Siri that connects your data and gives better context, a deeper Spotlight search, and app improvements like Maps adding transit options. The News app is really like a Flipboard style app for iOS, and Notes gets beefed up as well. There's other improvements, but the two biggest things, iOS 9 brings multitasking and different ways to use split screen for apps or picture-in-picture for video. It's really going to take the iPad line to the next level. And yes, it will be doing Microsoft Surface-like things, but now on Apple's hardware in Apple's own way. Now, I've been talking up the iPad Pro for a while, and all the software enhancements here are setting things up quite nicely if you're an iPad user. Now, the other big thing that will affect everyone, battery life. iOS 9 will squeeze out an additional hour of battery life, and a brand new low-power model will extend battery life for 3 hours. Low-power mode will save power by limiting network activity. Emails won't be fetched automatically. Background downloads and app refreshes will be stopped. It will also use sensors to stop the screen from turning on when it's laying face down. Now, hints of what's coming in future hardware can also be found from code inside the iOS 9 beta. Developer Hamza Sud has discovered support for the front-facing FaceTime camera to get 1080p video while capturing 240 frames per second at 720p, as well as a front-facing camera flash. All first on an Apple product and likely coming to the next iPhone. Now, next up, watchOS 2. The biggest thing here is that Apple is finally opening up the SDK for native apps from third-party developers to live on the Apple Watch. Other side improvements like different custom watch faces, support for FaceTime audio calls through the watch, or even watching video on its teeny tiny screen aren't game changers but improvements. And let's not kid ourselves with nightstand mode. Are you really going to fiddle around with the Apple Watch and even try to press its itsy bitsy buttons at 6 in the morning if you're going to use it as an alarm? Come on, you won't. Now, this update is all about the apps and killing those load times, but we'll see if apps on the Apple Watch can be as significant as apps were for the iPhone. And really, that's what the big A is hoping for. All right, Apple kept it low-key, but watchOS 2 will also bring an activation lock to the Apple Watch that prevents someone from reactivating a lost or stolen Apple Watch without a previously linked Apple ID. The big thing here is that you'll have to turn on that feature in the Apple Watch app. All right, macOS 10.11 gets the name El Capitan and refinements across the board for Safari and the Mail and Notes app. Spotlight also gets the same contextual awareness and natural language improvements, and Metal for Mac brings a 50% improvement in rendering graphics with 40% less CPU required. You'll also get useful features like split view for using two apps or calling out your cursor with a wiggle so you can find it more easily. But nothing big here in macOS 10, just subtle improvements like we expected. And finally, Apple Music. Apple's all-in-one app and music streaming service will cost $9.99 a month or $14.99 a month for a family plan that can be shared between 6 people. It will bring a 24-hour live radio station hosted by DJs from around the world. They're calling it Beats One. And it's also touting itself as a platform for high-profile artists as well as indie artists to share content behind the scenes for fans to engage with. Now, think of it as a music streaming service that will try to be the next MySpace or Bandcamp that's all built into one place with the Apple muscle behind it. Highlights of the announcement included an appearance by rapper Drake, who's notoriously a front-runner when it comes to NBA teams. Like, look, I'm sure he's a huge Apple fan that's had that Apple jacket for years.
For example, I bought this vintage Apple employee's jacket using a tool known in the rap world as the internet. It's going to be huge this year.
Never mind, but I still love his music. And the low light of the keynote, Eddie Q dancing.
Definitely gets my Cuban blood going.
Let's not see that again. All right, confirmed reports also say Apple Music will stream at 256 kilobits per second, the same as iTunes Match, but lower than the 320 kilobits per second from Spotify. Apple still has no free ad-supported model like Spotify, but will try to lure customers in with a 3-month free trial. And Apple Music also won't stream the entire iTunes Music Store catalog. These are really two different things. The Beatles are one of those bands that you won't find on their streaming service, but you know who's still on board with Apple? Taylor Swift. Hey! Not that I even know who Taylor Swift is, but if you do, and I know there are plenty of you that do, and if there's artists that you can only get on Apple Music, then maybe you might jump over to the service. And a side note, for iPod fans and a sad sign of things to come, Apple has removed the iPod from the top navigation bar of apple.com, and you can now find them at the very bottom if you scroll way, way down in the music section. Tear. All right, overall, the keynote was good, not great, and sometimes extremely boring, but it laid the groundwork for new hardware coming this year. On to our feedback of the weekend. If you missed it, we dropped my Apple Watch review as a separate video last week, so check it out. Here's what some of you said. JF Darcy comments, most honest review of the Crapple Watch. And Kuno Pai says, that's sweet you send your heartbeat to your boo, Brian. Does he send his heartbeat back? And speaking of the Apple Watch, you know I have this ongoing bet over the NBA Finals with you Cleveland Cavs loving Apple biters. Well, LeBron James is famously known for being a Samsung spokesman. But do you know what he gifted his entire team right before the NBA Finals? That's right, Apple Watches. Now, yours might have been on pre-order for over 2 months and you still haven't received it. The same rules don't apply to LBJ. So at least King James and I have two things in common. We both got Apple Watches and we are both great basketball legends. And with Game 4 around the corner, don't worry, Warrior fans. This series ain't Dellavedova. All right, that's going to do it for this week's show. You can email me at theapplebite@cnet.com or tweet me at Brian Tong. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you all next time for another Bite of the Apple.